and death is my shadow. What's up, Howlers and sci-fi fantasy nerds out there hopefully watching this video? Can you tell that I am bloody damn excited about this review? Can you tell? Because I'm absolutely fucking pumped, okay, to finally sit here with all you gory damn book lovers to talk about the first book in a series that, to my surprise, has shot up all the way to maybe even my number one favorite spot as far as fantasy series go. Which is actually kind of insane because I'm not even all the way through book 2 yet. Now, some of you might think that's a bit premature, and you might be right, but ask me if I give a fuck. So, my good men and my good women, take a seat, kick back, relax, grab a cold one, and allow me to introduce to you, to bequeath unto you, a blessing from the gods, Red Rising. Also, before we begin, I know what you're all thinking. Let's address the elephant in the room. All right, I know it's a big deal. I got to talk about it, but it's true. It's true. I got a haircut. I did. I could not, in good conscience, in good faith, continue to make these videos looking the way that I was in the first 2 videos that I made. One of them I had to wear a hat because it was so bad. I should have cut my hair a long time ago. I think this looks a lot better. It simply had to be done. Thank you for noticing though. I appreciate that. So, what exactly is Red Rising about? Now, for those of you who've not read this book before, I am going to be extremely vague when I describe the plot of this book. If you saw my first booktube video, my introduction and me going through all the books that I've read the past year, I briefly discussed Red Rising, and I was very adamant about the fact that anyone going into this book, reading it for the first time, should go in absolutely blind, and I still stand by that. Now you might be asking, why is that? Well, the reason is that there is a huge reveal that happens about 20% of the way into this book. And when I read Red Rising for the first time, I didn't know about the reveal. And so when I first read it, I had that element of surprise that when it happened, I had no idea. I did not see it coming, and it completely elevated the experience of reading that book for me. And so that's why I would implore anyone who has not read Red Rising yet, who wants to read Red Rising, I would implore you to not read the back of the book, to not go online and look at, other people's book reviews because they're going to spoil it. I'm probably one of the only booktubers who's not going to spoil it, so you can watch mine, obviously. Don't go read synopses, don't go read Goodreads reviews. And look, here's the thing. Even if you're going into this already knowing what the reveal is, it's still a great book. Like, this is still a great book. You're still going to have a great time. It would be a little bit better if you didn't know certain things going in. Let's talk about the plot. And like I said, I'm going to try to be as vague as possible in order not to spoil anything for anybody who has not read it yet. In this book, we follow our protagonist, our main character, Darrow, from the first person point of view. This book takes place on Mars, hundreds of years into the future. There is a oppressive class system that is divided into colors, where you have golds at the top, you have reds at the bottom, and there's a couple different colors in between. The Reds are essentially slaves, and they are here to mine under the surface of Mars for a chemical called helium-3. Now, what they're told is that the reason they are here doing this, the reason that they are forced to do this, is because they are helping to terraform Mars so that in the future, everyone living on Earth can go to Mars because Earth is dying. The Reds are constantly told by their oppressors that they are pioneers. The reason that they are forced to do this horrible work in the utmost harsh working and living conditions. I mean, you're talking about these people live in absolute filth, some of the worst conditions imaginable for working or living. They're doing this for the purpose of helping the human race continue to survive. Our main character, Darrow, is what's called a hell diver, which basically means he has the most important and most dangerous job out of all the red miners that are mining this helium-3. He controls this giant claw from like a contraption, you know. It's basically like a giant metal hand, and it's a very dangerous job, and he's pretty much the best at it. He's the best there is. Let's talk about the Golds for a second. The Golds are the oppressive ruling class. These people are ruthless. We're talking about a group of people in power who literally will publicly hang Reds for breaking the most minute laws or rules, to the point where there is a specific dance and song that they cannot dance and sing to, otherwise they will be hung. We're talking deep oppression. As I'm sure you can imagine, there are many people who are fed up with being treated like slaves. Is there a rebellion brewing? How far will some have to go to spark a revolution? And who will be sacrificed along the way? In this dark, bleak, dystopian world, expect the unexpected, because in this world, it might just be that everything is not what it seems. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. That description I just gave was nowhere near as vague as I said it would be a minute ago. But trust me when I say that there is so much more to this book than what I just told you. This book takes so many huge twists and turns to the point where it is basically impossible to predict what is going to happen. You truly never know what is going to happen next. Ladies and gentlemen, this book is phenomenal. And here's the thing. Red Rising takes its time quite a bit in the first 9 to 10 chapters, or around 70 pages. And I remember when I read that beginning section of the book, I found myself thinking, where the fuck is this going? Like, honestly, it seemed a little boring and directionless. I was like, what is that? Like, where are we going with this? Something happened? But then, as soon as the book takes that big turn, suddenly you start to realize what direction we're really going in. From there on, the plot of this book takes off full speed like a rocket ship and never lets up. This book never lets the foot off the gas pedal until the very last page. The first 70 or so pages are a little boring and directionless, and you're thinking, where's this going? And then the rest of the book is this non-stop fucking roller coaster thriller ride. It will go by in a blink. I deleted this book in like a day and a half. And that's with going to work and doing other shit. So like not a day and a half straight of reading. Just a day and a half's worth of whatever free time I had. And I killed this book. Bam. I mean, it just went by so fucking fast. Here's something I want to talk about real quick. There are some readers out there who consider Red Rising to be a YA series, or a young adult series, which is basically a genre of literature that is specifically aimed at young adults, so like teenagers aged like 14 to 18. More specifically with this dystopian YA, which was kind of a big fad when The Hunger Games, Divergent, and Maze Runner, those were the big three, were all coming out, and they were hugely successful. The books were hugely successful in like the early 2010s. And a lot of people say that this is like that. I'm here to tell you that they are wrong. These books are way too dark to be YA. They are way too bleak. The themes are way too heavy. Weirdly enough, I will also say that I think some older teenagers, like 16 and up, can definitely read this book. Like, it's not so dark and so bad that only grown-ups can read it. I would say under 16, if you're a parent, you know, your kid picks it up, I would read it first and see if it's okay with you. One of the only things that is even remotely YA about this book is the fact that Darrow, our protagonist, is a teenager. I believe when the book starts, he's 16 years old. And so a lot of people see that and they immediately think, oh, this is for kids, this is a YA. No. Just because the main character is young does not mean it's aimed for kids. Mistborn is not for kids at all. It is for adults. and the main character is also 16, I believe, Vin. Now, I know I just said all that, but however, I would also like to make a point that if you liked the Hunger Games, then you will love Red Rising. Even though I say it's not YA, it's not YA. But if you liked the Hunger Games, especially if you got into it when you were a teenager, when it was popular, and you got that nostalgia for it. I love the Hunger Games. I think it's great. I think this is a better version. There are certain elements in this book that are similar or reminiscent, shall we say, of the Hunger Games. They're not copycats. They're not exactly the same. They're honestly two completely different books. However, there's a couple elements that you'll start to notice were kind of similar. So if you're into that Hunger Games kind of thing, that YA dystopian stuff, this is like just basically like a more adult version of that, which is great. Really quick, I want to briefly talk about the character work. The problem is I can't really talk about a lot of the characters without spoiling the big reveals. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save most of the character discussion for the spoiler review that I'm going to come out with after this. When is it going to come out after this? I don't fucking know. I'm winging it here with this booktube thing. Throwing shit to the wall, seeing if it sticks. I don't have a schedule, so I'm going to get it out as fast as I can. I'm going to do a spoiler-filled review of Red Rising for those who have already read it. And that way I can go in depth and talk about all the spoilers and reveals and characters and stuff without worrying about people who haven't read it. I will, however, touch on a few of the characters in this book that me talking about them won't spoil anything. So obviously, let's start with Darrow, right? Darrow is a great character. He's a great protagonist. He has some flaws, but he's also very redeemable, and he's someone that you easily root for. Also, can we just talk about how cool of a name that is? Darrow for a protagonist? That is fucking badass. It's, in case you're wondering, it's Darrow. That is a badass name. A lot of the names in this book are fucking awesome names. Pierce Brown just weirdly, very specifically, is a master of creating characters' names. Speaking of awesome names, let's talk about Darrow's wife, Io. Her name's just E and the letter O. Awesome name. Also feel like there was a movie with Michael Jackson called EO or something, but that's neither here nor there. Io is his wife, and ironically, in the beginning of this book, she has a bit more of that rebellious fire in her than Darrow does. Darrow is really the one drinking the Kool-Aid because he doesn't want Io and his family to get hurt, and so he just does what he's told. But, you know, Io, she's got a spark in there. She's got fire. She's got anger, and, you know, she wants to start something. And that ends up creating a lot of conflict in the rest of the book in a very, very well-written, well-shown way. So, yeah, Io's a great character. Let's talk about the big villain of this series. I don't know if he's the villain for the entire series. I'm assuming it's just the original trilogy. But Nero Al Augustus is one ruthless motherfucker. Oh my good lord. This guy is... I mean, when you look up the word monster in the dictionary, all you see is his face plastered right up there. I mean, wow. This guy will kill anyone with zero thought, zero remorse. This man has zero regard for human life. He is what's called the Arch-Governor of Mars, so he basically rules the entire planet of Mars. That's a lot of power for someone that is that awful. What I love about Augustus is that he has this presence. When he is in a room, it doesn't matter who is in that room, just his mere being there, his mere presence, you feel it under your skin. The amount of power and the amount of monster inside this person, so much greed, power. When he walks into a room, everyone fears him. I mean, just so much presence, and he becomes someone that you just love to hate. I mean, this guy's awful. He's a great great villain. Now, unfortunately, most of the other important characters in this book I can't talk about without spoiling certain parts of this book. But all I'll say is that there is a big group of side characters, amazing side characters. They come into the story later on. They are the ones who elevate this book from great to upper echelon S tier. The side characters in this book that show up later on that you meet are fucking fantastic, and I cannot wait to talk about them in my spoiler review. But I don't want to talk about them now, because if I talk about them, I'm gonna have to talk about the big reveal. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna spare you knowing that big reveal. Go in blind, please. If you're someone who's watching this video, being a Scrooge, folding your arms, saying, this sounds awful. If somehow, some way, nothing that I have just said in the past 10 minutes has convinced you that this book is worth reading, I'm going to share with you one of the most powerful lines I've ever read in literature. It's the very first page of the very first chapter. One of the best lines ever written. I'm going to read it word for word. Try to unlock my audiobook narrator voice. On Mars, there is not much gravity, so you have to pull the feet to break the neck. They let the loved ones do it. Holy fuck. They let the loved ones do it. I'm gonna read it again. In case it didn't sink in, I'm gonna read it again. Don't worry, you don't have to rewind. I'm gonna do it again, because it's just so good. On Mars, there's not much gravity, so you have to pull the feet to break the neck. They let the loved ones do it. If that is not the heaviest, darkest, and yet most beautifully profound combination of 3 sentences in a line that I've ever heard, lock me up and throw away the key. I mean, come on. If that line alone, if that hook does not pull you in, I don't know what the fuck will. I will forever remember that line, word for word. And it's just absolutely fucking amazing. Perfect. There's a lot of lines like that. There's a lot of very powerful ones. Like the one I said at the beginning, which was I am the Reaper and death is my shadow. How fucking badass is that, right? Before I wrap things up, I want to tell you guys about a new book rating system that I am implementing into my videos, because I didn't do one for Mistborn. Truth is, because I kind of forgot. So here's how it's going to work. This is going to be a star rating system out of 10. Yes, I know, very original. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do decimal point in the 10th place out of 10. So, for instance, 6.1 out of 10, or a 9.7 out of 10, or a 2.3 out of 10, or a 6.0. That's how my rating system is going to work. Maybe I'll change it later in the future. Who knows? One of my favorite booktube channels of all time, Tutor Ramble. Love you guys, by the way. Shout out Tutor Ramble. If you haven't seen them, go watch their videos. They are fucking hilarious, and they're very insightful and awesome booktubers, and I would be honored if I could be interviewed by them one day. But anyways, yeah, that's going to be my rating system. Without further ado, I have decided to give Red Rising Book 1 an 8.6 out of 10. As much as I've raved about this book, you might be thinking, that doesn't sound as high as I maybe thought it would be. Why isn't this a 9.6, 9.7 if it's so amazing? The reason for that is because I'm already almost through book 2. And I've heard stuff about the next books, how they only get better. These books are gonna surpass Red Rising by a lot. Like, the second book is almost twice as good as Red Rising. So if I give the first one, Red Rising, like a 9.7, like the way my heart wants to, then when I move on to Golden Sun, which is like way better, even the Red Rising's great, Golden Sun's way better. If I do that, then I'm gonna give Golden Sun a 10, and it's gonna be 0.3 higher. You know, you gotta save space for the other books that you're going to read in the future, especially since I only started reading books about a year ago and my catalog is not that deep, especially compared to people who have been reading fantasy every day for 50 years, right? So I have not read a lot of books, relatively speaking, but I'm getting there, and I'm being harsh when it comes to how high I rate the stars out of 10 for these books, because I want to leave room for the big boys, the granddaddies, the Words of Radiances that I have yet to read, or the Realm of the Elderlings that I have yet to read. 8.6, that's still a great score. That's still amazing. And also, you know what? I've decided that if I want to, in some other video, I have the right to retroactively go back and change my rating on a book that I reviewed. Because you know what? It's okay. Opinions change, and it's okay to go back and change it. I don't know how I'll do that, if I'll mention the new rating in another book review. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. But yeah, maybe one day I'll go into the future and Red Rising will pale in comparison to 100 books I read, and I'll change it to a 6. I don't know. Who knows? All right, Howlers, that's just gonna about bloody damn do it for this spoiler-free review of Red Rising, Book 1. Everyone stay tuned for my spoiler-filled review of Red Rising, Book 1, coming soon. Hopefully, I have convinced someone watching this video to go read Red Rising, and hopefully you finish the book by the time I get that spoiler video out, and life will just, all the pieces will just come together perfectly, and the universe will come through. Final thoughts are, please, for the love of God, go read this book. Do yourself a favor and pick up this book. Pick up this series. I swear to you, on my future grave, you will not regret it. This book is amazing. This series is only getting more amazing. And all I've heard is that each book tops the last one, which is crazy. So yeah, definitely read it. I also want to say thank you to all of my loyal friends who, when I first started this out, I told them all about my new BookTube channel, and a lot of them came and watched my videos and commented and liked and subscribed. And I just want you guys to know that I absolutely deeply appreciate all the support. Not even just from my friends. There's been even like a couple strangers that I didn't even know who have left very kind, supportive, encouraging comments telling me, one of them was along the lines of, it's so good to see like someone who's passionate about a niche like this come out, and that just, it really touched my heart. So thank you to all those people. Yeah, I didn't expect to have any subscribers at all by my third video, but I do, and I'm happy about it. I like it. I'm having fun doing this, so hopefully at some point I can get a better camera, better lighting, will up the production quality. Hopefully at some point I'll have read more books and there's more stuff to talk about. But yeah, you guys know I'm new to this shit. I'm just winging it. So yeah, I'm doing the best I can, but this has been pretty awesome so far, and I have a feeling it's only going to get better. So thank you to everyone who has made this even better than it would have been with all your support. Thank you. I love you. And most importantly, keep reading. Peace.